Hey everyone! Do you think the best revenge is to succeed in life or to get even directly? Comment succeed or get even. Now let's dive into the story. The first thing I saw when I pulled up was the damn champagne tower. Crystal flutes stacked 6 levels high like some royal wedding. I was still shaking out my legs from the 5-hour drive down from Boston, dust on my shoes and stale coffee in my cup holder. But I forced a breath, smoothed my cream blouse, and headed into the vineyard estate. My name's Rachel. I'm 41. I live in Boston. And apparently, I was about to spend the next 2 hours being treated like a ghost at my own cousin's engagement brunch. Everything about the place screamed money. White linens, waiters in black vests, women with blowouts and pastel dresses tossing back mimosas like water. I stuck out immediately. My cream blouse wasn't designer. My black trousers were clean, pressed, but plain. Nobody even looked my way, until they did. As soon as I stepped in, I caught my aunt whispering behind a hand to my mother near the hors d'oeuvres table. "Didn't expect the scrub queen to make an appearance," she said, her voice soaked in condescension. I clenched my jaw. Mom didn't even blink. She just waved a finger lazily in my direction. "Go ahead, Rachel. Seat's back there. Didn't want you to feel out of place." No hug. No, "glad you made it." Just a nod toward the back like I was someone's distant coworker, not her daughter. I walked through the maze of round tables, weaving between gold chiavari chairs and flower arrangements the size of toddlers. People glanced at me, then turned right back to their conversations about Connecticut real estate and who got into Dartmouth this year. My name card was at a table by the back doors, next to a guy setting up camera gear and a girl flipping through Tinder on her phone, the photographer's assistant, and someone's random plus one. That's who I was sitting with. I slid into the seat, hands stiff in my lap. I hadn't eaten all day, but I couldn't bring myself to touch the mini quiche or the fruit parfait in front of me. I just stared across the lawn at the people laughing like they hadn't insulted me with their seating chart. Amanda was twirling in the center of it all, her fiancé beaming beside her. I remembered being 10, both of us playing wedding with a lace curtain, promising we'd be each other's maid of honor. Now she barely glanced my way. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I took a sip of water and looked out at the vineyard, thinking maybe I should have just stayed in Boston. But then I heard Amanda's voice behind me. "Rachel, you made it! Rachel, you made it!" Amanda threw her arms around me before I could stand. It was a quick squeeze, one of those one-shoulder hugs people give when they don't really want to touch you. She pulled back fast, her smile already fading. "So, still doing that hospital stuff?" I blinked. Yeah. Just got back from South Sudan. 6 months with Doctors Without Borders." "Oh, wow, sounds intense." She smoothed her dress, looked over my shoulder. "Well, I'm glad you're here. There's so many people I want you to meet. Wait, have you seen the ice sculpture? It's of me and Zach." She didn't wait for an answer, just waved and moved on. "You look beautiful, Amanda," I called after her. She didn't turn around. I sat back down slowly, biting the inside of my cheek. The photographer's assistant gave me a half smile as he adjusted something on his camera rig. It was strange. Growing up, Amanda and I were inseparable. Weekends at each other's houses, making up dances in the driveway, telling each other everything. She made me pinky promise when we were 11 that we'd be each other's maids of honor no matter what. I took that stupid promise seriously. I guess she didn't. My fork scraped against the plate, but I couldn't force myself to eat anything. My stomach was knotted tight. "Hey," the photographer's assistant said after a minute. "Sorry if that was awkward. I'm Liam." I looked at him, early 20s, buzz cut, kind eyes. He held out a hand. I shook it. "Rachel." "You're Amanda's cousin?" "Apparently," he chuckled. "This is my third engagement shoot this month, but this one's something else." "Yeah," I muttered. "Definitely something else." We sat in silence for a minute, the hum of rich people chatter buzzing around us. Then he tilted his head. "So, what kind of hospital work do you do, if you don't mind me asking?" I exhaled slowly. "Trauma medicine, mostly emergency response. I was running a field hospital overseas, gunshot wounds, burns, high-risk infections. We were 2 hours from the nearest paved road. Electricity maybe 5 hours a day if we were lucky." His eyes widened. "That's badass, seriously." I gave a small smile, the first one I'd felt all day. "It's exhausting, but yeah, it matters." What's the scariest situation you've been in? I opened my mouth to answer, and that's when I heard him. My dad, his voice boomed across two tables. Rachel, talking about your latest jungle surgery or whatever? I froze. Liam shifted awkwardly. Dad stood there, mimosa in hand, shirt collar already loosened, like it was the end of a wedding, not the middle of brunch. His face was red, loud and proud. Sorry, kid, he said to Liam, pointing at me with his glass. She loves telling people about her blood and guts volunteer work. She's got a hero complex, thinks she's Angelina Jolie with a scalpel. I clenched my jaw. It's not volunteer work. He waved me off like I was background noise. Sure, you're saving the world, Rach. Meanwhile, people your age are buying homes, having kids, making something of themselves. Okay, I said, standing up. I'm gonna get some air. Liam looked up at me, confused, but didn't say anything. Dad just grinned and took another sip, already turning to someone else at the table. I walked toward the edge of the vineyard, shoes crunching on the gravel path. The sound of champagne laughter trailed behind me. But in my head, it was all white noise. I hadn't even made it to the far end of the vineyard before I heard my name again. Rachel! Dad's voice cut through the hum of brunch like a foghorn. Don't run off. Come on back. We're talking about life choices. I stopped. My shoulders tensed. I turned back around and walked slowly to the table. The moment I sat down, he leaned in, eyes already glassy. You know, I just don't get it, he said, grinning like we were in on some private joke. You're 41, still chasing this glorified charity work. You could have had a real career, a real family. I didn't respond. He raised his glass again. But no, you'd rather live out of a backpack. Third world surgeries, whatever it is you're doing. I mean, what's the end game here? It's not charity, I said flatly. It's medicine, crisis response, emergency trauma systems in war zones. Well, hell, my Uncle Frank chimed in from across the table. Maybe that's why she never got married. Too busy stitching up rebels in the jungle. The people around them laughed. I looked down at my untouched quiche, heartbeat pounding in my ears. She's married to her stethoscope, my Aunt Linda said, grinning like she delivered the punchline of the year. No time for a man when you're saving the world, right? Dad nodded, leaning back in his chair. It's just sad, honestly. We always thought you'd settle down, be a surgeon in a hospital, maybe meet someone. Instead, you're out there risking your neck for people who can't even say thank you. I stayed quiet. My fingers curled around the edge of the chair. They didn't know about the time I'd slept 3 hours in 4 days during a cholera outbreak, or the little girl in Syria whose leg I saved, or the field protocol I designed that's now used in 8 countries. To them, it was just stories from places they couldn't find on a map. You know what I think? Dad kept going. I think you got addicted to the adrenaline. You wanted to feel important. Playing doctor in the dirt? You could have built something here. I cut him off. I am building something, just not in a place you can brag about at country club brunch. He raised his eyebrows, then laughed. Touchy. I stood up slowly. Excuse me? Don't be dramatic, my aunt said. We're just talking. I need the bathroom, I said, already walking. I passed 2 waiters carrying silver trays, weaved through a crowd near the champagne fountain, and finally found the bathroom tucked behind a pair of ornate double doors. Inside, I locked the door, leaned over the sink, and stared at my reflection. My face looked tired, not from the drive, but from all of it. The flying, the deployments, the way I always had to defend my choices like they were failures instead of accomplishments. My throat tightened. They didn't know I'd been under live fire trying to stabilize a pregnant woman with a gunshot wound. They didn't know I'd once worked 60 hours straight with no electricity and 2 bags of IV fluid left for a tent full of burn victims. And they sure as hell didn't know that a health minister in East Africa told me my field hospital protocol reduced their mortality rate by half. But all they saw was what I wasn't. Not a wife, not a homeowner, not their definition of successful. I blinked hard. I refused to cry in a goddamn vineyard bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face, wiped it with a paper towel, and looked at myself again. Was I really so out of place here? I straightened up, adjusted my blouse, and reached for my phone in my bag. What I saw on the screen made me freeze. News alert. Doctor, Rachel Benton to receive Presidential Medal for pioneering work in emergency trauma protocols in conflict zones. My breath caught, and right beneath it, Another notification. Text from James P., Senior White House Advisor. Need you to present tonight at the Global Summit. POTUS wants to honor you in person. Secret Service en route. I stared at the screen, stunned. Then I dropped my hands to my sides. They had no idea. I stared at the screen. My name, in bold, Dr. Rachel Benton, to receive Presidential Medal for pioneering work in emergency trauma protocols in conflict zones. Below it, the text from James. Need you to present tonight at the Global Summit. POTUS wants to honor you in person. Secret Service en route. I didn't move for a full 10 seconds. My body was there, in that overpriced vineyard bathroom, but my mind was somewhere else entirely, suspended between disbelief and something that felt dangerously close to validation. This was it, the moment. Years of blood, sweat, and grit. The sleepless nights, the danger, the risk. It wasn't just worth it. It was being recognized by the highest office in the country, and not a single person outside that door knew. I took a breath and set the phone down on the counter. My reflection was still the same. Hair slightly frizzy from the humidity, eyeliner faded, blouse clinging at the shoulders. But now it felt like armor. I slicked my hair back into a neater twist, ran a paper towel under cold water, and dabbed my face. Then I reapplied lip balm and stood up straight. If they weren't going to see me for who I was, fine. I wasn't shrinking to fit their table. I slipped the phone back into my bag and walked out of the bathroom. Back in the main room, the tone was the same, loud, indulgent, oblivious. My mother was holding court about some neighbor's botched kitchen renovation. My uncle was breaking down interest rates. My father, mid-sip, was arguing about whether beachfront property in Sarasota was still a good buy. Amanda sat quietly next to Zach, scrolling through her phone like she couldn't care less. No one noticed me walk in. Not a single head turned. I walked back to my seat and slid into the chair next to Liam, who gave me a quick glance. "You good?" he asked, quiet enough not to be heard. I nodded once. "Yeah." He went back to adjusting his camera lens. I looked down at my plate, then across the table at my dad, who was now gesturing wildly about condo associations. Not one word about medicine, not a question about what I'd been doing, what I was doing next, who I really was. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was done needing anything from them. I sat there in silence, surrounded by the noise of people who still believed success came with a mortgage and a ring. People who had no idea the White House was about to send a motorcade for the woman sitting quietly between a camera tech and a stranger's date. I crossed my legs, placed my napkin in my lap, and waited. Let them talk about real estate and renovations. Let them think I was a misstep, an oddity, a cautionary tale. They were about to find out. I hadn't even adjusted my chair when my father jumped back in like I'd never left. "You know what's really crazy?" he said, waving his champagne flute toward me like a pointer stick. "She's 41 and doesn't even own a damn house." I didn't look up. I just picked up my water glass and took a slow sip. He kept going. "Most people her age are investing, planning for retirement. But no, Rachel's off running around with scalpels, pretending she's making a difference." Liam gave me a side glance, eyebrows raised. I stayed still. Amanda shifted in her seat. "Dad, maybe drop it. I'm just saying," he snapped. "What is she even doing with her life?" I set my glass down. That familiar burn started crawling up my neck, but I didn't speak. Not yet. "Rachel could have had anything," Dad went on, like I wasn't even sitting 2 feet from him. "Smart girl, decent looking, could have married a lawyer, built a life. Instead, she's off. God knows where doing God knows what. Chasing war zones, playing doctor in the jungle." Amanda leaned forward, trying to redirect. "So, Zach and I are thinking of Lake Como for the honeymoon." "Honestly," Dad cut her off, "you know what it is? It's an ego thing. She needs to feel important. She could have stayed right here in the US, worked a regular job, helped people here. But no, she needed a stage." I clenched my hands under the table. My fingernails pressed into my palms so hard it hurt. "She's always been like this," he added. "Difficult. Thought she was better than the rest of us." I opened my mouth, but I never got the chance to answer. That's when the doors opened. Not just casually, wide, deliberate, purposeful. A line of black-suited security stepped into the hall like something out of a political thriller. People turned, conversations cut off mid-sentence. Behind the security detail walked a man in a navy suit and white medical lapel pin, tall, composed, unmistakable. The U.S. Surgeon General. Every fork and glass in that room stopped moving. Behind him, two Secret Service agents scanning the room with dead serious eyes. Mouths dropped. My Aunt Linda stood halfway up from her chair like she'd seen a ghost. The Surgeon General didn't look left or right. He walked straight toward me. I could hear my own heartbeat over the stunned silence. He stopped directly at my table. Doctor, Rachel Benton. I stood slowly. Yes. His expression was calm, respectful, direct. I apologize for the interruption. The president insisted this be delivered in person. He reached into the inner pocket of his suit and pulled out a small black velvet box. He opened it. Inside, the Presidential Medal for Distinguished Service in Global Health, for your leadership in developing emergency trauma systems in conflict zones and your contributions to saving thousands of lives worldwide, he said, projecting just loud enough for the whole damn room to hear. Amanda gasped, a soft, broken sound that made her hand fly to her mouth. My dad went pale. No smirk, no comment, just stunned. The Surgeon General turned slightly to face the guests, still holding the open box. You are in the presence of one of the world's leading trauma specialists, he said. The president asked that we recognize her today not just for her bravery, but for her innovation, dedication, and unwavering service in the most dangerous parts of the world. Someone dropped a glass. I didn't even look to see who. Then came the clapping. Slow at first, unsure, then building. Some guests stood. Others just stared, mouths half open. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. I didn't blink. The Surgeon General turned back to me. Your car is waiting. We'll need to escort you to the summit shortly. I nodded once. Understood. He handed me the box. I closed it gently, then looked at the table, the same table that had just mocked me half to death. I held the box in both hands, velvet cool against my palms. The Surgeon General nodded once more, then turned back to the stunned room. I'll repeat it, he said, voice even but commanding. You are in the presence of one of the leading trauma specialists in modern medicine. Dr. Benton has pioneered triage systems that are now standard in over a dozen active conflict zones. She's trained hundreds of medical teams, led field hospitals under fire, and saved lives most of us couldn't even bear to watch die. The silence in that vineyard was deafening. Amanda's gasp still hung in the air like static. My dad's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Just wide, stunned eyes, like he'd watched the ground shift under him and had no clue where to step. Someone in the back started clapping again, then more joined in. A slow, awkward rhythm building into real applause. A couple people even stood, not out of obligation, out of genuine, startled respect. I kept my face steady. I didn't smile, I didn't cry. I just nodded politely and turned to the Surgeon General. Ready when you are, sir. He gestured toward the exit. We have a motorcade out front. Helicopters already en route for the summit. The president would like you in the front row for the keynote. I gave Liam a quick glance. His jaw was hanging halfway open. He snapped it shut and gave me a short, stunned nod. Then I turned to Amanda. She stood slowly. Her eyes were glassy. Rachel, I didn't know. You weren't supposed to, I said. She took a small step closer. You look incredible. I gave her the same nod I used to give patients before surgery, controlled, calm, focused. Thanks. My dad still hadn't moved, still sitting, still processing. The Surgeon General placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. We'll escort you now. I walked past my mother, who stood frozen, one hand still hovering in the air like she hadn't realized the glass had shattered at her feet. Her lips parted, nothing came out. I didn't wait for her to find the words. I walked past my uncle, now looking down into his empty plate like it had answers. Past Linda, whose eyebrows were knitted in pure disbelief. They didn't clap anymore. They just watched me go. As we moved down the aisle between tables, guests parted like they were in a church pew. A few reached out to shake my hand. One older woman murmured, "Thank you for what you've done." Outside, the sun was blinding. The front of the vineyard estate was lined with 4 black SUVs and a van with government plates. A chopper could already be heard in the distance, approaching fast. Secret Service opened the rear door for me. The interior was all leather and silence. I slid in, box still in hand. Before the door closed, I looked over my shoulder. Back at the estate, the windows, the people I'd spent years trying to prove myself to. I didn't feel superior, I just felt done. Done shrinking myself, done waiting for their approval, done pretending that anything I'd ever do would be enough for people who never wanted to understand in the first place. The door clicked shut, the SUV pulled away from the vineyard, and I leaned back in the seat, metal in my lap, heart finally steady. The summit ended hours later. I came back to the vineyard because I had to pick up my car. No security detail this time. Just me, the metal in my bag, and the last bits of daylight streaking over the estate. Amanda was waiting outside near the gravel lot. Her shoes were off, makeup smudged. The moment she saw me, she ran forward and wrapped her arms around me so tightly, I almost dropped my keys. She was crying, not pretty tears, raw ones. I had no idea, she said into my shoulder. Rachel, I swear to God, I didn't know. I held her for a second, then gently pulled back. It's okay. No, it's not. I've been so distant. I thought you just left. I thought you didn't care. I never stopped caring, I said, but I stopped explaining. I didn't advertise it. She looked at me, eyes rimmed red. You should have told me. You should have asked. She didn't argue. She just nodded. I walked past her back toward the terrace. The crowd had thinned, but a few people lingered. Cousins, neighbors, family friends, all of them whispering. The moment I stepped into view, they went quiet. My father stood off to the side, arms crossed, staring at the stone tiles like they'd betrayed him. I walked straight toward him, stopped a few feet away. He didn't say a word. For once in his life, he had none. You don't have to understand my life, I said, voice steady. But you don't get to insult it. He looked up at me, face unreadable. I didn't need your validation, I added, but now I don't even want it. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Nothing. I turned and walked away. 3 guests came up before I reached the front steps. Dr. Benton? One asked, eyes wide. Could I shake your hand? Of course, I said, offering it. The next was a younger woman with a phone half raised. Would you mind a photo? My daughter's starting nursing school. You're like everything she wants to be? I nodded. Let's take it. The third just said, thank you for your work, truly. I gave a small nod and kept walking. Amanda watched from the side, arms folded tight across her chest. Her eyes met mine again, softer this time, humbled. But I didn't say anything more. There was nothing left to explain. I got in my car and shut the door. Just sat there for a second, both hands on the wheel, letting the silence wrap around me like a shield. The estate lights glowed behind me. Voices still carried faintly from the terrace, but it was all background noise now. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I picked it up expecting some random alert or work message, but it was a text from Grandma. Saw the news, sweetheart. I knew you'd do great things. Don't let anyone in that room shrink you. I let out a breath, a real one, and smiled, for the first time that entire damn day. I stared at her message for a while. My grandma never said much, but when she did, it stuck. She'd always seen me, not for the degrees, not for the awards, not even for the job, just for me. The tap on my window made me jump. I looked over. Liam stood there, backpack slung over one shoulder, camera strap across his chest. I rolled down the window. He shook his head, half laughing. That was the most badass thing I've ever seen in my life. I smiled again. You caught the whole thing? Every second. If I ever make a documentary, that's the climax scene. I better look good on camera, I said. He leaned on the window frame. Seriously, I know I'm just some assistant with a borrowed lens, but watching you walk out of there like that, it was something else. You're not just anything, I said. Don't let anyone box you in because of where you're starting. He nodded slowly. You think I got what it takes? If you don't stop asking for permission, then no. But if you trust your gut, yeah, I think you've got it. He looked like he didn't know what to say after that. Just gave me a salute and stepped back. I rolled up the window, set my phone back in the cup holder, and finally reached over to the passenger seat. The velvet box was still there. I rested my hand on it for a second. Then I started the engine. As I pulled out of the gravel lot, I didn't look back at the estate. Didn't need to. Boston was 5 hours away, but I was ready. Metal beside me, head clear, chapter closed. 3 months later, I stood on stage at the National Medical Leadership Conference in D.C., staring out into a crowd of the best minds in healthcare. And in the front row, My father, navy suit, perfect tie, hands clenched in his lap, and eyes full of something I hadn't seen in years. Pride, bare and unguarded. The applause finally quieted as I stepped back from the podium. After the ceremony, people lined up to shake my hand. A few asked for interviews, photos, speaking invites. But I caught Dad moving along the edge of the room, hovering like he wasn't sure if he should come closer. He finally did. He pulled me aside, away from the crowd, into a quiet corner behind a divider wall near the back of the hall. His voice came out low, honest, no performative tone. "I was wrong, Rachel." I didn't say anything. I just watched him. He looked down like he needed to anchor himself before he spoke again. "I didn't understand what you were doing, what it cost you." I was so stuck in what I thought success looked like. I couldn't see what was right in front of me. I waited. "I'm proud," he said, "deeply proud. Not just of what you've done, but of who you are." For the first time in my life, my father looked like he was close to crying. Eyes rimmed red, chin tight. I gave a small nod. "Thanks." A few seconds later, Mom came over and wrapped her arms around me. Her hug was warm, real this time. Not stiff, not polite. She pulled back, hands still on my shoulders. "I thought success looked like us," she said quietly. "The houses, the brunches, the perfect lives on paper. But I see now it looks like you too." I met her eyes. "Took you long enough." She gave a shaky laugh and nodded. "Yeah, it did." I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was something. A door cracked open, a small start. Family didn't always get it right. But sometimes they got another chance.